What is your answer to the question, where are you from? It's hard to be from the place where you are if you've moved to it, right? At least according to the locals. Sometimes that extends even to generations. I was not born in New England, but all my children were. But even that is hard for them to claim to be a true New Englander because, as they say, a cat can have kittens in an oven. That doesn't make them biscuits. Well, maybe it shouldn't be so hard to be from a place. Maybe we need to learn about the place that we're in and maybe not stay put. You see, we're going to look at Jesus' words about not having a home. Where was Jesus from? And where is Jesus' home? It's an important question, whether we're going to think about someplace far away in a different time or whether we're looking at something close. Because I believe if you look just right, maybe you have to squint a little, you can find heaven in the margins. And yes, we find it on the journey. So let's go together, shall we? Let us walk together here on the Marginal Way.
Come in and breathe. Come in and just be. Breathe. Breathe. If you need to pray, if you need to weep, wherever you are, whatever you need, come in and just be. Come in and just breathe.
Bunjokwa, Sewara Hunzios, Gotnigari Wessa, Dano de Tino Horado, Ne Aguego Gossat Stan Sarawana Sa Oyera. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni, Ne Ingwatnigura, Dano de Tino Horado, Ne Ingwasum A, Tukadinayota, Ne Ingwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni, Ne Ingwatnigura, Dano de Tino Horado, Ne Yetinistaha Ohunja. Tukadinayota ne Ingwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ingwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, Tigahnigarunio, Tukadinayota ne Ingwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ingwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, ne Gunjok Sum'a, Tukadinayota ne Ingwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ingwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, ne Odera Sum'a, Tukadinayota ne Ingwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ingwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, ne Ohande Sum'a, Tukadinayota ne Ingwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ingwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, ne Odinuma Sum'a, Tukadinayota ne Ingwatnigura. Aguego Oscar Anti the Wahwet Nuni ne Ingwatnigura, Dano de Tinu Horado, ne Gahit Sum'a, Tukadinayota ne Ingwatnigura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne ununkwa sum'a tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne jun hekwa tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne gunderio tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne garunda sum'a dano overe sum'a tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne oji dan ogu'a tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne gaeri ni gawarage e tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne eti sotogu radiweras tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de chi de wat nu horado ne eti de wat ji a jokaneka garakwa tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne eti sota asontaneka garakwa tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de tinu horado ne yoji stakorunyo tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Agwego Oscar anti de wahwet nuni ne ungwa ni gura dano de chi de wat nu horado ne sungwaya dizu tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura. Ona tofni ore, wakaderi wat kwani, doga o tana zunget ni gorha, izagit ne aiza wara sundarum, tukadi nayota ne ungwa ni gura, tok ni gawanage.
Mother Earth, Father Sun, Moon and stars, we all are one. We are all connected, we are all connected.
In the footsteps of Nanabozho, it is said that the Creator gathered together the 4 sacred elements and breathed life into them to give form to original man before setting him upon Turtle Island. The last of all beings to be created, first man was given the name Nanabozho. The Creator called out the name to the 4 directions so that the others would know who was coming. Nanabozho, part man, part manido, a powerful spirit being, is the personification of life forces, the Anishinaabe culture hero, and our great teacher of how to be human. The Creator gave Nanabozho some tasks in his role as original man, his original instructions. To walk through the world that Sky Woman had danced into life. His instructions were to walk in such a way that each step is a greeting to Mother Earth, but he wasn't quite sure yet what that meant. Fortunately, although his were the first man's prints upon the earth, there were many paths to follow, made by all of those whose home this already was. Nanabozho's journey first took him toward the rising sun, to the place where the day begins. As he walked, he worried how he would eat, especially as he was already hungry. How would he find his way? He considered the original instructions and understood that all the knowledge he needed in order to live was present in the land. His role was not to control or change the world as a human, but to learn from the world how to be human. Wabunong, the East, is the direction of knowledge. We send gratitude to the East for the chance to learn every day, to start anew. In the East, Nanabozho received the lesson that Mother Earth is our wisest teacher. He came to know Sema, the sacred tobacco, and how to use it to carry his thoughts to the Creator. As he continued exploring the land, Nanabozho was given a new responsibility: to learn the names of all the beings. He watched them carefully to see how they lived and spoke with them to learn what gifts they carried in order to discern their true names. Right away, he began to feel more at home and was not lonely anymore when he could call the others by name, and they called out to him when he passed. Bojo, still our greeting to one another today. After his eastern sojourn, Nanabozho's footsteps took him next to the south, Jawanong, the land of birth and growth. From the south comes the green that covers the world in spring, carried on the warm winds. There, cedar, kijig, the sacred plant of the south, shared her teachings with him. Her branches are medicine that purify and protect life within her embrace. He carried kijig with him to remind him that to be indigenous is to protect life on earth. Nanabozho also had the task to learn how to live from his elder brothers and sisters. When he needed food, he noticed what the animals were eating and copied them. Heron taught him to gather wild rice. One night by the creek, he saw a little ring-tailed animal carefully washing his food with delicate hands. And he thought, I'm supposed to put only clean food in my body. Nanabozho was counseled by many plants, too, who shared gifts and learned to treat them always with the greatest respect. After all, plants were here first on the earth and have had a long time to figure things out. Together, all the beings, both plants and animals, taught him what he needed to know. The Creator had told him it would be this way. His elder brothers and sisters also inspired Nanabozho to make new things in order to survive. Beaver showed him how to make an axe. Whale gave him the shape for his canoe. He'd been instructed that if he could combine the lessons from nature with the strength of his own good mind, he could discover new things that would be useful for the people to come. In his mind, Grandmother Spider's web became a fishnet. He followed the winter lessons of squirrels to create maple sugar. In his journey to the north, Nanabozho found the medicine teachers. They gave him Wiingashk to teach him the ways of compassion, kindness, and healing, even for those who have made bad mistakes. For who has not? To become indigenous is to grow the circle of healing to include all of creation. Sweetgrass, in a long braid, offers protection to a traveler, and Nanabozho put some in his bag. A path scented with sweetgrass leads to a landscape of forgiveness and healing for all who need it. She doesn't give her gift only to some. When Nanabozho came to the west, he found many things that frightened him. The earth shook beneath his feet. He saw great fires consume the land. Sage, Mushkodewashk, the sacred plant of the west, was there to help him to wash away fear. Firekeeper himself came to Nanabozho. This is the same fire that warms your lodge, he said. All powers have two sides, the power to create and the power to destroy. We must recognize them both, but invest our gifts on the side of creation.
Creator set free, Jesus saw the great number of people around him and gave his followers instructions to prepare a canoe to cross over to the other side of the lake. On the way to the lake, a scroll keeper walked up to him. "Wisdom keeper," he said, "I will follow you wherever you want to go." He answered the man, "The foxes live in their holes, the winged ones who fly above to live on their nest, but the true human being has no place to lay his head. Another follower said to Creator Set Free, "Honored one, let me first go home to my father until it's time to bury him. Let the others who are spiritually dead bury their dead. You come and walk the road with me."
I've talked about this before, that as I've wandered from place to place in my life, as maybe some of you have, some of you perhaps not so far or so different, that home has meant different things, and New England has become the home that I claim. It's the place that I want to say that I'm from, even though I was raised in Pennsylvania. And I know that when I lived in Ohio, I was able to say that I was a New Englander because there was no one there to challenge that. And I know that I will forever be from away here, but that doesn't mean that I can't be a part of here, that I can't integrate and be a part of this. For truly, if we are honest, we have to admit that all of us are from away. Unless some of you are Wabanaki, I believe that you are from away as much as I am, even if you've lived your entire life here. And that's what we're going to look at today, this wandering on the earth and being from somewhere else. Even the indigenous creation stories that we've been looking at in our story time in this series are characters who are from away. Sky Woman literally falls from the sky onto Turtle Island. She comes from, who knows, this other realm, this other place, only to land here and be cared for by the creatures who are already here, which is an important point. The creation tale is there's already something here. Creation is something that comes up out of the gifts that are already present. And Nanabozho is a true immigrant story. The first man is placed in a world that is not new. He has to go through the world and find his place and offer his gifts in reciprocity. These are the stories that are told by the native peoples of this land. And they differ from the way we tell our creation stories, or at least the way we interpret our creation stories. Because we understand that God created everything out of nothing. But there was God, and there were gifts, and that it is for us to find our place in the order of creation, not to have dominion over it, but perhaps dominion with. I say that all the time. It's a really important distinction. How are you going to have dominion over the birds of the air? Have you flown lately? How are you going to have dominion over the fish of the sea? How long can you hold your breath? Right? Those are their domains. And there's a reason for that. They're made for that space. And the story in our creation tale is that we are also to find our place. It's a special place. And it's in relation with all that exists. And it's wonderful to look at these other tales of creation, these indigenous stories, and the ways that other people have understood their place in creation, because it helps us to compare to our own and learn truths that already exist in our own story. We maybe just have missed them because of the way we've read it for too long. Nanabozho is effectively an orphan. He doesn't know his parentage. He is the first man. He's the Adam, right? Made out of who knows what. There is none before him. And he doesn't see this new world as a promised land. Maybe that's part of our problem, is the continuing tale of our faith story is that our peoples were exiled and were promised a new place. And so when our ancestors in this land, when our forebears in America came from Europe, they saw this in that same story as the promised land. And we got some really bad theology like manifest destiny, right? Like it all belongs to us, that this is a blessing from the hand of God. So what that there were people already here, right? We come upon what used to be known as Columbus Day and more rightfully see it as Indigenous Peoples Days now. And, you know, the joke, of course, is that, you know, on Columbus Day, you should celebrate discovering the car on the street that just happened to be in front of your house, right? It's yours now because you discovered it. Well,
There's far too much of that history in interpreting our story that way. And that's not the way that Native peoples have seen the world and the way it was created. Notice that it was important for Nanabozho to understand the world, that it was old and already inhabited, and that there were teachers present. There was much to learn. Notice that he doesn't name the animals like Adam does in our creation story. He learns their names. He learns their names. He observes and understands and names them after who they are, what their true nature is. And we can do that. We should do that. We should be in relationship with creation in a way that we observe and understand and don't try to make it fit what we think it should, because, well, we know how that goes. Not well. He was also to learn from the inhabitants how to live in harmony and balance. And he was to receive the gifts. He received the gift of spider and beaver and whale and squirrel. He did not take the gift. He did not take the giver. And again, too much of our practice is understanding that it's all ours to take. Instead of, these are all gifts for us to receive and to give in reciprocity, to return a gift to the giver, to understand that we have a place and that we bring something in addition to, not in replacing it. That learning to live in balance for Nanabozho was to provide the gifts of his intelligence, his strength, and creativity to enhance the gifts that were already there. To be inspired, to see the spider's web and say, oh, I could do something similar and we could catch fish. Right? To see the way that the beaver chops at the wood and say, I could chop at the wood with something and cut down a tree. To learn from nature, not to overtake it, not to take from, but to work with. How rarely do we do that? To say we bring our gifts of intelligence and strength and creativity and enhance what's around us, not just consume it. There are lessons to be learned, and they're not absent in our stories, but they're highlighted perhaps in different and possibly better ways in these other stories. We need to learn how to go native, right? To become part of the place we're in, to become naturalized. And a way to look at this is what happens in nature with invasive species, especially non-native invasive species, right? When something is introduced into the environment. Think about purple loosestrife. You guys know purple loosestrife? Beautiful, beautiful plant. And when I see it, I shudder. And you should too, right? Because if you know anything about purple loosestrife, it's something like 1 million seeds in every plant or something. It's a ridiculous amount of it. It propagates really, really well and really fast. And unfortunately, it does that in wetlands where it doesn't belong, because it belongs in Europe. But we brought it here because we kind of like the purple. You know, we wanted to make dyes that are purple and use it. It's really about it. It's really a vanity sort of plant. That's why it got here. People introduced it when they settled here from Europe. And now it's choking out wetlands left and right. The ones that we aren't draining and filling already are also being challenged by that. And that's one way of being a foreigner, an immigrant in a foreign land. And it's not a good way to come in all the arrogance of who you are and not fit in and not offer anything of any value here. But there's another plant, and Dr. Kimmerer talks about it in her book, that the native peoples call white man's footsteps. It's a plant that everywhere that the wagon wheels went, everywhere the trail went as it moved west, so did this plant. And it's short and little leaves and kind of reminds people of feet. In fact, so much that it's called common plantain, which has a relationship to foot. But this is a plant that as it grew, as it expanded upon this land, as it was introduced, folks discovered its uses. It just was very opportunistic, growing in the places where European settlers moved, but its leaves can be eaten in the spring for nourishment. In the summer, when the leaves get too tough and chewy, it can be turned into a poultice that soothe burns and bug bites. The seeds can aid in digestion. And the leaves can even stop bleeding and heal wounds without infection. It became a very useful plant in its new place. It became part of the environment it was in and offered its gifts, and its gifts were received and helpful. That is the way to be a sojourner in the land, to be an immigrant, to be a foreigner. And regardless of what we think of ourselves, that's who we are. That's who we are in this land. In fact, it's who we are in this world. Now, this can also get us into trouble, right? Because so much of theology is so otherworldly minded that the followers become no worldly good, right? It's all about salvation and going to heaven in the by and by, the pie in the sky by and by, and meanwhile, people are starving in the here and now because we're waiting for some other gift in some other place. And too much of our theology becomes about getting saved. Whatever that means. What are you saved from? What is the fear? What is it that you need to be saved from that gets you to a point where you believe that the only thing that matters are the rituals of your faith, and so then you punch your ticket for heaven and you go to the train station and wait for the train? And that's the way I've seen. That's why I've rejected so much theology in search of better ways of believing, because that can't be what God put us here to do, can it? Can that really be what it's about? I mean, Jesus did come and say that he had no home, right? The fox has its den, the birds have their nest, but the human one, Jesus, has no place to lay his head. If you want to be a follower of Jesus, you got to get on the path and walk with him. And it's easy to interpret that as, that's right, because we're going to heaven, and this world doesn't matter. Lots of people read it that way. Maybe you do. Maybe you still do. Maybe you've done that in the past. But I can't believe that that was the message Jesus wanted us to understand. I don't think Jesus wants us to be like purple loosestrife, choking out everything that's here, just waiting for the glorious day when we become purple dye. I think we're supposed to be more like common planting, offering our gifts here and now, finding a way to be present in this world even though it's not our home. As a matter of fact, what Jesus said was that heaven is here and heaven is now, right? The kingdom of heaven is at hand. If you have the understanding, you'll know that. The problem is we don't have that understanding. The problem is we understand heaven as someplace, somewhere, sometime else, not here and now. That we can find the gifts in this place, that we can be a gift in this place. There's no bigger from away story than the incarnation. God came from away, from the ultimate away, from beyond creation, and became one of us. Became one of us, and walked along the way and said, I don't have a home here. And if you want to know home here, follow me. Jesus came and made the journey our home. Jesus came and said, this is where heaven is. When you are in relationship, in balance and harmony, when you learn from others, from other humans, from other than human. When you are in relationship, when you are in harmony and balance and you are offering your gifts, then you are finding your home. Because that is the kingdom of heaven. It is about relationship. It's a gift that we can give ourselves. And we don't have to wait at the train station for the train to glory. We can be at home in the world right now, right here. And in fact, I truly believe that is what the Creator had in store for us and what God intends for us. Amen.
Thank you for spending this time wandering down the marginal way with us. I pray that it's been a good journey. And I pray that you have found some gifts, that you have understood that you have many things to offer of your intelligence, of your creativity. And maybe you can offer them here and now. One way you can help us continue to do that is simply by liking and sharing this video. and also by subscribing to our channel. These are things that help us continue to have this presence. And of course, if you have some money to give, we would use that as best we can to serve those on the margins of our community. So please visit our website, find that link, and make a donation if you can. We thank you very much for it. And may you wander this path of this world, of this life, this place that is not your home and is your home throughout this week, and be filled with wonder and awe as you do. And return from those wanderings and go with us again next week as we explore the wonder of the gift of this place, our home, our true home, the kingdom of heaven.
Ever since the days of old, man would search for wealth untold. They dig for silver and for gold and leave the empty holes. And way down south in the Everglades, where the black water rolls and the sawgrass waves, the eagles fly and the otters play in the land of the Seminoles. So blow, blow, Seminole wind, blow like you're never gonna blow again. I'm calling to you like a long-lost friend, but I know who you are. And blow, blow from Okeechobee all the way up to Macanopy. Blow across the home of the Seminole, the alligators and the gar. Progress came and took its toll, and in the name of flood control, they made the plans and they drained the land. Now the glades are going dry. Last time I walked in the swamp, I stood up on a cypress stump. I listened close and I heard the ghost of Osceola cry. So blow, blow, Seminole wind, blow like you're never gonna blow again. I'm calling to you like a long-lost friend, but I know who you are. Blow, blow from Okeechobee all the way up to Macanopy. Blow across the home of the Seminole, the alligators and the gar.